2023 NFL ReDraft. Where do the quarterbacks land? Is CJ Stroud going to jump Bryce Young? We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I am a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And you know I got to kick this intro to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ with those LSU Bengal Tigers, man. And what the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, where we're your number one source for everything NFL draft content. Yes, the draft is over, but the content doesn't stop. We are 24/7, 365 over here. Today's show, we are doing a 2023 NFL redraft, right? It's CJ Stroud QB1. How far does Bryce Young fall down the board? Does Will Levis jump up into the first round? We're going to have all of these great conversations. I want to say shout out to everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to comment. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. DP, let's get this thing going and flowing.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to my guy, Nick Bumgardner, writer, NFL analyst over at The Athletic. He did a 2023 NFL redraft. Guys, let's get into it. So, number one, the Carolina Panthers' original pick in 2023 was Bryce Young, quarterback out of Alabama, but they went ahead and selected CJ Stroud, quarterback out of Ohio State. With the second pick, the Houston Texans still go quarterback, but they select Bryce Young out of Alabama. With the third pick in the draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Will Anderson Jr., edge rusher from Alabama, which originally they traded this pick to the Texans, and the Texans took Will Anderson. With the fourth pick, stand pat, it's all the same. The Indianapolis Colts select Anthony Richardson, quarterback out of Florida. With the fifth pick, the Seattle Seahawks original pick, Devin Witherspoon, cornerback from Illinois. In this redraft, they select Jalen Carter, defensive tackle out of Georgia. With the sixth pick, the Detroit Lions, who originally traded out and made that trade with Arizona. Arizona traded up for Paris Johnson. They stand pat in this one, and they still take Jahmyr Gibbs, running back from Alabama. With the seventh pick, the Las Vegas Raiders select Devin Witherspoon, cornerback out of Illinois. Their original pick was Tyree Wilson, edge rusher from Texas Tech. With the eighth pick, still the same, Atlanta Falcons, Bijan Robinson, running back out of Texas. Shocker alert, the Chicago Bears, who originally traded this pick, traded one spot with the with the Philadelphia Eagles. They select Puka Nacua, wide receiver from BYU. And at pick 10, the Philadelphia Eagles don't trade. They stand pat at 10. They select Sam Laporta, tight end out of Iowa. Keith, there's a little bit of shakeup in here, but I got to say, we probably start with the quarterbacks, right? Those are the cash cows in the NFL. How do you feel about the QB 1, 2, and 3 in this redraft? Do you feel like this makes sense? Or if you're Houston, would you rather take a Anthony Richardson, who you have to now deal with, and remember how he kind of balled out on you and styled on you in the first matchup last year before he got hurt? Or would you still go with Bryce here if CJ Stroud's off the board?
Yeah, so I want to take a different angle to this, right? And the redraft, I'm assuming, is kind of based off of what happened last year, current situations, right? And so I think because we had this conversation during the season, if CJ Stroud went to the Carolina Panthers, how would he play? And if Bryce Young went to the Houston Texans, how would he play, right? So I almost want to lean towards that. Whoever the Houston Texans take at quarterback, right? Whether it's CJ Stroud, whether it's Bryce Young, whether it's Anthony Richardson, they're going to play better than the guy that goes to Carolina, right? Like you know what I'm saying? Because we talked about that situations matter. So I think they flip situations, and if this happened in real life, I think that we would potentially be talking about Bryce Young is a good quarterback and CJ Stroud is in a horrible situation. And if there was a 2023 NFL redraft, what happens if CJ Stroud went to the Houston Texans, right? It's like a mind twist type of situation. We just know that the Carolina Panthers was a bad situation for a quarterback. So I found that interesting that even if you flip the guys, do you get similar results as far as the Houston Texans is simply just a better spot, for a quarterback. And like you said, whether that's Anthony Richardson or Will Levis than what the Carolina Panthers are.
No, and yeah, I'm with you because like the Panthers were heck, Keith, I've said it many times in this pod. What did I do after leaving camp? I called you. I was like, I'm out. You know what I mean? I'm out on this. I don't like what I saw at camp, right? And I think Bryce will absolutely play better with that Houston Texans team. I think CJ Stroud and a lot of Panthers fans feel like CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson would struggle. And I would always advise them, go watch the tape. There were times where the pockets were muddy for both of those guys, and they still made the play. Where Bryce, when the pocket was muddy because of his height and lack of arm talent, it deteriorated. The play didn't go well. But him putting them in Houston, he's going to, with what they have, he's going to be able to thrive in that situation, especially with what I'm about to say, Kevin Stefanski, God, Bobby Slowick, the OC calling plays. Mm-hmm. So, like you said, I think the Texans, whoever falls into that spot, you feel like, man, you should be able to perform the best out of all these guys. Compared to especially what the Panthers were kind of going into. But remember, the narrative wasn't the Panthers were a bad team coming into the draft or into the season, right? Because they didn't originally have the first overall pick. People were optimistic. Just that once I got to camp, I was like, yeah, let's kill that optimism right away because this is not good. The Colts still taking Anthony Richardson. I think that fits. The only other quarterback would have been Will Levis, but from what I was told, that was actually never really a thing. This is a stretch right here, Keith. The Seattle Seahawks, and I remember when they were on the board, and I said they should go Jalen Carter. And I'll say this: I get the whole racing thing that happened. Man, I feel like that was not overblown, but it was too much weight thrown on somebody in the opposite car, and we just saw teams like, man, what if he does have bad character? And then he gets to Philly. We never hear anything negative about him because he's just out there playing well, right? And for Seattle to get him, you don't have to trade for what they end up trading for Leonard Williams. So that defeats, you don't have to do that. But Keith, the Lions at 6, still getting Jameer. The Lions say, you know what? I don't care about positional value.
Well, I want to ask this. Not even still getting Jahmyr Gibbs. Would you make the decision to go Jahmyr Gibbs over Bijan Robinson? Because in this scenario, DP, Bijan is still on the board.
Ooh, okay, yeah. I didn't even know. That's tough. That is tough. That's tough, man. Because
what happened? Jahmyr is RB1 in this draft.
Legitimate. Jahmyr is RB1. I'm pretty sure. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure my boy Nick is a Lions fan, so I'm pretty sure. So I think there's a reason for this. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, you flip the coin and you balling either way, right? You flip the coin, but yeah, that's tough. I can't even call it. I won't even lie to you, Keith. I can't call that. But the one that really stood out to me, Keith, was pick number 9. Going from the 5th round to a top 10 selection. Puka Nacua, come on down, man.
Was he was wide receiver 1? Was this the first wide receiver?
I think so. I'm scrolling back up here. I don't think we had another wide receiver off the board. No, we did not. He was wide receiver 1. He was wide receiver 1, Keith.
That's crazy. And I would go as far as to say maybe that's it. We have to see where the rest of these guys land. But was that a little bit overreaction? But looking at the first round wide receivers from last year, you had Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? Which he outproduced them. Jordan Addison, which I would say him and Jordan were, even if Puka had more yardage, Jordan had an impact. I would say that. And then you had Quentin Johnston, who was the other first round wide receiver, who, that was very up and down roller coaster situation. So as crazy as I want to say it is, I guess you almost have to respect it, right? Because Puka went out there and he was productive and going
all
to Chicago
pro season. Bears. I think as a rookie,
a
rookie, man.
Yep.
So you got to give him love. And he broke the rookie record for like 114 catches, 1,600 yards. Like he was that dude. I got to give it to him.
Yeah, so that's crazy, man, to make that jump from the 5th round to the 1st round. But that's why you do these things with DP. Let's keep this thing going, man. This is a fun exercise, to be honest. A lot of different talking points in here. We got to try to fit into these segments. So coming up next, man, is picks 11 through 20.
Our sponsor today is Yahoo Finance. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested all that you can. Now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses, Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data that you need in one specific place. They are the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analysis, and analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. With the 11th pick in the Athletics 2023 redraft, the Tennessee Titans select quarterback Will Levis out of Kentucky. Their original pick was Peter Skoronski, offensive lineman from Northwestern. With the 12th pick, the Houston Texans select Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle out of Ohio State. This was the original pick that was traded to, I think, the Cardinals, and then the Lions after the Cardinals trade, which the Lions ended up taking Jahmyr Gibbs. With the 13th pick, the Green Bay Packers select Brian Branch, defensive back out of Alabama. Their original pick here last year was Lucas Van Ness, edge out of Iowa. With the 14th pick, the New England Patriots select Christian Gonzalez, cornerback out of Oregon. The original pick was made after a trade by Pittsburgh. The Steelers selected Broderick Jones here last year, offensive tackle out of Georgia. With the 15th pick, the New York Jets select Darnell Wright, offensive tackle out of Tennessee. Originally, Darnell Wright ended up being a Chicago Bear. With the 10th pick in the draft. This original pick for the Jets was Will McDonald IV, edge rusher out of Iowa State. With the 16th pick in the draft, the Washington Commanders select Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of USC. Original pick, Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback from Mississippi State. At the 17th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Kobe Turner, defensive tackle from Wake Forest. This was the original pick that was traded with the Patriots, and the Patriots selected Christian Gonzalez. With the 18th pick, the Detroit Lions select Dalton Kincaid, tight end out of Utah. Their original pick last year was Jack Campbell, linebacker out of Iowa. At 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Tuli Pelotu, edge rusher from USC. Their original pick was here last year was Kalijah Kancey, defensive tackle from Pitt. And with the 20th pick, the Seattle Seahawks select Zay Flowers, wide receiver from Boston College. Their original pick was wide receiver from Ohio State, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Keith, this is chaotic. Like when you look at this stretch of the picks, like this is chaotic. I got to go here though, right? And starting at 11, Tennessee Titans selecting Will Levis, right? We know that he's their current quarterback. So instead of waiting to second round, they select him in the first. Keith, would you have done that though? Like, even though we saw some flashes from him, wouldn't you still want to get Peter Skoronski, the offensive lineman, and still try to get him in the second round, maybe move into the back of the first, if anything?
Yeah, so this exercise is different, right? Because it's almost you're looking at, I guess, in retrospect, right? Like you're playing Monday morning quarterback, right? And Will Levis is a quarterback, and I don't know if Will Levis did anything to make me want to take him at a top 10, top 11 pick, right? At pick number 11, and swap that out for Peter Skoronski, who I think is going to be a really good football player. I like it in retrospect that I took him at the top of the second round. You know what I'm saying? And I would want to do that again. So I don't know if I would go with this selection. And that's not saying that Will Levis won't be a really good quarterback. We always talked about how bad this offensive line is also. So it's take Will Levis here, and then I may not have a shot at getting Peter Skoronski or a high-level offensive lineman that I believe is going to make Pro Bowl after Pro Bowl to be able to protect Will Levis. So I think it's one of those situations where, honestly, I could have seen the Tennessee Titans doing the exact same thing that they did, I guess in real life in 2023.
Yeah, that's why I was like, man, like because then you potentially you miss out on Peter Skoronski. Potentially, we'll see how the picks 21 through 32 go. But like, if you miss out on Peter Skoronski, like, man, that's a tough ask. I love 13 though. The Green Bay Packers saying, listen, you went to Detroit and gave us all type of problems in the real draft. So we're going to take you and put you in our secondary group in terms of Brian Branch and getting that type of playmaker, who a guy that we both loved and was like, there's no reason for him to fall to the second round, but because he didn't test in the 4.4 range, and he was like, what, a 4.5, 4.6 guy, and he wasn't the superb athlete that people wanted him to be, we kind of overthought it, and he fell to the second round, and he was an absolute baller for Aaron Glenn and that Detroit Lions secondary. You think about a secondary in for Green Bay that has Jair Alexander and Brian Branch, that's dangerous in itself to try and complete passes, but also the run defense Brian Branch brings, the blitzing, everything, man. Like this was a pick I liked a lot because I wasn't a fan of the Lucas Van Ness selection. I felt like that was a major reach, but getting Brian Branch here, I wouldn't have batted an eye, Keith. That would be like great pick.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing with this redraft is remembering who the team originally selected. And if you kind of like the pick at the time anyway, right? And I'm kind of with you on the Lucas Van Ness situation. And you stop with the Jets. Darnell Wright, them getting Darnell Wright. I thought that this was an appropriate area for Darnell Wright to get drafted. In real life, right? He went higher than that. But then also you talk about the original pick with Will McDonald. You still have to see how that's going to turn out. But that was another one of those picks, much like the Lucas Van Ness. I thought it was, they took him a little higher than what my draft grade was. So you look at it now in retrospect, I think this would be a good swap.
100%, Keith. 16th pick. The Commanders, who originally took corner Emmanuel Forbes, who had a very tumultuous rookie year, right? And then swapping him out in this situation, and you go and get Jordan Addison, who had a really strong rookie campaign as that wide receiver too, and in some games for a little bit of a stretch was able to operate as a wide receiver one when Justin Jefferson wasn't healthy. And you put him in the receiver core with Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. I mean, Sam Howell, like, you know what I mean? That was to happen in real life in 2023. Maybe Sam Howell is still the Commanders quarterback, Keith. And maybe they didn't pick second overall, but that would have been a great fit.
They win enough games, right? Potentially with that situation. But then also the original pick being Emmanuel Forbes. It's so fun trying to look at retrospect because things change year over year, right? And if we do this exercise next year, Emmanuel Forbes is with Dan Quinn playing in a cover 3 scheme somewhere where we like him a whole lot more. So his stock can elevate again to where if we do this exercise again next year, Emmanuel Forbes might be going back to the Washington Commanders because he played much better football.
100%. Love the line saying, okay, so Sam Laporta is not available for us in the second round. He went top 10. So we'll go ahead and take Dalton Kincaid, who we saw on
a
film.
swap, right? We swap them out, get guys with similar skill sets. They still walked away at the end of the day. They walked away with so far Jahmyr Gibbs and Dalton Kincaid, right?
And
not
Dalton
much has changed.
To get Jahmyr Gibbs and Dalton Kincaid, Jared Goff is still smiling somewhere, Keith. Like he's like, oh, I'm still good. I still got a high-end young tight end, and I got me an explosive playmaker out the backfield. How do you 19, Keith?
I like
it. Both like Thule.
I like it because I like Thule a lot, and I thought he was more of a top 50 player. And edge forward, like him and Byron Young were my two edge rushers that kind of flew under the radar the entire draft process. And to see him go at pick 19, I like it a lot. And I'm gonna wrap this up real quick, DP, with the Seattle Seahawks. Zay Flowers swapping that out for Jackson Smith and Jigba. Do you agree?
It's interesting because I don't understand why. You know what I mean? I'm like, don't get me wrong. I understand that Zay Flowers had a better season, but Zay Flowers was also, quote unquote, the wide receiver 1 for Baltimore, where JSN was kind of wide receiver 3 for most of the season in Seattle. So I was like, I don't even know if it's a fair comparison, because what happens if JSN is in Baltimore in 2023, right? Like, granted, it's a different skill set. Zay Flowers is more explosive, but he's probably the better route runner and separator and different things like that in terms of what JSN brings. So it's like bigger body as well. So I don't know. I feel like I don't understand the reason. I don't understand like why you would flip the two because it's
So,
just hard to compare them, I guess.
yeah. This is one of those situations. Probably you go production wise, right, and just say that Zay Flowers was a more productive player. So maybe that was his thought process with this. But DP, let's keep this thing going. Like I said, I am enjoying this process right here, going through this 2023 NFL redraft. Coming up next, man, picks 21 through 32.
The NFL season is right around the corner. And guys, I know that buying tickets can be a little stressful at times, but let me help you take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets. Because with Game Time, you get killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets. With the NFL schedule release happened last week, guys, I know there's games that you want to see. I live in the South Carolina area, in the Carolinas, and a big game that's going to be on the schedule is September 15th when the Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert come to town to play the Carolina Panthers. Guys, you can get tickets from the Game Time app right now. I mean, right now for as cheap as $32 a ticket. So what are you waiting for? Okay, what are you waiting for? Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Let's finish it off. Picks 21 through 32 of my boy Nick Bumgardner's 2023 NFL redraft. With the 21st pick, the Los Angeles Chargers select Joe Tippmann, offensive lineman out of Wisconsin. Their original pick was wide receiver from TCU, Quentin Johnston. With the 22nd pick, the Baltimore Ravens select Peter Skoronski, offensive lineman from Northwestern. Their original pick was Zay Flowers. With the 23rd pick, the Minnesota Vikings select Jaden Reed, wide receiver out of Michigan State. Their original pick, Jordan Addison. With the 24th pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Anton Harrison, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. The original pick was made by the New York Giants after a trade, and they took cornerback out of Maryland, Deonte Banks. With the 25th pick, the New York Giants select Joey Porter Jr., cornerback out of Penn State. This original pick was made by Buffalo after a trade. They took Dalton Kincaid. With the 26th pick, the Dallas Cowboys select Keanu Benton, defensive tackle from Wisconsin. Original pick was Mozzie Smith, defensive tackle from Michigan. With pick 27, the Buffalo Bills select Luke Musgrave, tight end out of Oregon State. This original pick last year was made by Jacksonville after the trade. They took Anton Harrison. With the 28th pick, the Cincinnati Bengals select Jordan Battle, safety out of Alabama. Their original pick was made. The original pick that was made was Miles Murphy, edge rusher from Clemson. With the 29th pick, the New Orleans Saints select Kalijah Cansey, defensive tackle out of Pitt. Their original pick, Brian Brzee, defensive tackle out of Clemson. With the 30th pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Byron Young, edge rusher from Tennessee. Their original pick was Nolan Smith, edge rusher from Georgia. And to close it out, the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs select Tank Dell, wide receiver from Houston. Their original pick was Felix Nduke Uzoma, edge rusher from Kansas State. Keith, where do you want to? What's the first talking point you have for these last?
Oh man, it's a lot of talking points in this. Maybe. Okay, so first I'll start with Baltimore Ravens. I'm gonna go quickly through like two different scenarios, right? Baltimore Ravens, Peter Skoronski. We just talked about Peter Skoronski, the Tennessee Titans situation. Of course, he goes to Baltimore. Of course, he's going to be really good. Of course, he's going to line up right next to Tyler Lindenbaum, right? The offensive lineman from Iowa, and they're going to do all type of stuff and just look like Baltimore Ravens offense, right? For the next 10, 15 years. Of course, the Baltimore Ravens gets Peter Skoronski. But I want to go to the Giants. Because I thought this was an interesting situation. The New York Giants in this draft, they draft Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback, right? But then in the other draft, they drafted Deonte Banks. So Deonte Banks didn't get drafted. So are we saying that we feel as though Joey Porter Jr. is better than Deonte Banks? That would be my question, DP. Are you ready to make that decision?
No, I'm not. I'm still taking Banks. I think Banks played pretty well and pretty solid last year. Especially in that Wink Martindale man heavy defense. Not that I like Joey Porter, and I think he showed flashes himself, but I wouldn't. I don't think he showed enough for me to be like, yeah, I would take him over Banks if we did a redraft right now.
Right. Yeah. No, I thought that was an interesting little transition, and then this is another one, right? Where this is a player for player swap. The Dallas Cowboys going Keanu Benton instead of Mozzie Smith. In retrospect, we kind of know the situation with Mozzie Smith, him losing weight. How do you feel about it with Keanu Benton? Because I thought Keanu Benton was a really good player, like, true run stopping defensive tackle.
No, 100%, right? He has a wrestling back. Like I think he was a semifinalist in high school in wrestling. So like the body control and anchor ability, and I spent time with him at the Senior Bowl last year. Keith, like a guy that is very self aware and like understands I need to make sure I have 3-down value. I actually liked him, as a run defender more than Mozzie, because Mozzie to me was kind of like up and down, where like Michigan told him to either attack, something they told him to attack, but a lot of times it was holding the point of attack. Where Keanu, Wisconsin told him, go upfield, get vertical, create some type of surge and chaos in the backfield. And I feel like his ability versus the run would have helped Dallas a whole lot more, especially than a 285, 90-pound Mozzie Smith.
Yep, 100%. The other one, the other talking point is a couple more we could talk through and kind of go through. The Cincinnati Bengals taking Jordan Battle in round 1. So I was high on Jordan Battle. I like Jordan Battle a lot, and I think his junior year I gave him a first round grade, and then his second year, his senior year, the year he came out, I gave him a high second round grade. So I'm extremely high on Jordan Battle, but when you get into the conversation of swapping Jordan Battle out for what Myles Murphy could be, that's a very interesting dynamic, right? Because I would have to think that you could potentially, now this is trying to work the board, right? I would probably still go Myles Murphy here. And instead of drafting Jordan Battle in the 3rd round, I would draft him in the grade that I gave him. Then I would get him in the 2nd round, DP, because I think he'll still be available there.
No, 100%. I think you for me, you stay with the Myles Murphy pick if you're Cincinnati, because again, like Myles Murphy can play that base defensive end, rush the passer. Like he's a very high level talent. And again, for me,
it was something you just said, right? Like the expectations going into this year for Myles Murphy, DP, is for him to be the starter and a potential double-digit sack guy, right? Like that's something you just talked about when we had conversations about the Cincinnati Bengals. So maybe this is a premature move, right? Like maybe we have to hold your horses to after this season plays, because this might be the year that Myles Murphy bursts onto the scene.
Breaks out, because I mean, I think also like I'm Keith, I think you're in the same mindset. Correct me if I'm wrong. I want to build my defense from the front back. Like I want to make sure I have a pass rush set. I don't want to have a great secondary and a lackluster pass rush, or have just that one guy. I think Myles Murphy could be that opposite complement to Trey Hendrickson.
Yep, no, 100%. The next spot, the New Orleans Saints with Kalijah Kancey. I think that's interesting because I think it's still the Brian Bressee's issue was more against the run this past year. He had sacks, right? I think he had like 3-4 tackle for loss, and they all were sacks. It's about him making an impact as a run defender. The Philadelphia Eagles, Byron Young, we just talked about him, right? He was that doggone talented, and it's just crazy when we talk about popularity and media hype. When you watch Byron Young's film, you watch Nolan Smith's film, you watch their ability to get home and get sacks, it was clear who was the more instinctive player on film with the ability to get home, and it was Byron Young. And in this redraft, you've seen it kind of work out that way. And then you've seen the instincts kick off their very rookie year, right? Nolan Smith still has some of the same kind of ability to get home situations. Byron Young knew how to get home, and that's why he was an immediate impact player as a rookie.
100%. And Keith, got to close it out. Tank Dell, going from a 3rd round pick, similar to Puka Nacua, going from a day 2, him for Tank day 2, and Puka being literally day 3, to come into the first, to work your way into the 1st round, right? He didn't even finish, and again, this is all hindsight. He didn't even finish the rookie season because of a freak situation where he got his leg rolled up on by a couple linemen, 300-pound linemen that broke his leg. But he was their leading receiver, if I remember correctly, prior to that. Before then, Nico Collins took over, putting him with putting him in Kansas City with Pat Mahomes just seems so unfair. With the route running, the speed, the playmaking ability that Tank Dell brings. And then that also raises the question, do we see a Rashee Rice in the second round if you select Tank Dell at pick 31 instead of Felix and Duke Uzoma? Because we felt like the pick, even with that pick last year, it was a bit of a reach. Like it was a hometown kind of kid, but it was like, man, this is probably more of a day 2 selection than back into the first.
Yeah, 100%. And it brings up the conversation of you draft Tank Dell, do they get Xavier Worthy in 2024, right? Do they feel like that? And then which wide receiver would you rather, right? Would you rather Tank Dell or would you rather Xavier Worthy, which can be another fun conversation. But DP, we're gonna say that conversation for another time, man. Listen, that is another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to say shout out to everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Go ahead, hit that like button. Make sure to comment. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel with the best NFL draft content out there. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Let's thank you guys so much for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.